Hello and welcome to this second episode in my series Growing for Life. Now in this episode I want to take a closer look at spaces to grow. Often the initial objection to growing vegetables at home is I've got nowhere to grow, and I want to demonstrate today even though we have a lot of space here, we actually have little spaces here and there, and we use a variety of different systems and methods to grow vegetables. And I'm just going to take you through those different areas and methods in this video so that you can see which one is most applicable to you. I want to start with perhaps people who live in a flat and they say, I've got no garden, I've got nowhere to grow. I completely understand that, but there are still ways that you can grow things. You have a windowsill, I'm sure, and even if you can put on a windowsill the smallest pot, in that pot you can actually grow herbs. You could perhaps grow some chard, maybe some spinach, maybe depending on the size of the pot you can maybe grow some other bits and pieces as well. And even if that isn't possible, maybe you have skills such as administration that you could use to bring a group of growers together, perhaps other people who do have space that they can grow, and you might be able to be the person who sort of glues that group together and grows stuff together and shares that. I completely appreciate right at the moment that's not possible, but looking forward that is something that could be possible. Now perhaps you have a area with no soil in it. You have a courtyard or a small balcony, something like that. Now it's perfectly possible to be able to put things in there such as containers, or even perhaps one of these sacks, something like this. You can fill with earth, and then you can plant into that. Obviously this is water permeable, it allows the water to come out if there's too much, but you can fill it with compost and soil and you'll be able to grow some potatoes in there or some other things. You could even buy some plastic containers, some large tubs, and you could grow into that. So that would be a great start. Now I'm going to go outside and let's go and look at some other areas and some other ideas and methods that will allow you to grow your vegetables at home. Now this area here is what you might think of as a small traditional vegetable patch. It's about 5 foot square, 1.5 meters square, something like that. And even with this small area, this is something you can actually grow a lot of vegetables on, because what you'll be doing is using a system where you will be planting successionally through good planning, and as one crop comes to an end you'll be planting another crop in between for it to take over, and you can do this about 3 or 4 times throughout the year, so you can get a great variety of vegetables. In fact, even on a space about half this size you can still do that and still have a great selection. This has been forked over. It's not, forking over is not something that you have to do. You can just lay organic matter over the top of the soil, and that's called no dig, and we'll be looking at a no dig patch a bit later on in the video. So yeah, traditional little vegetable patch. Let's go and have a look at the next little area which might be more applicable to you. Now this is a cold frame, and this is a really great addition to a garden if you don't have room for a greenhouse. It can be used for different things. Traditionally gardeners might have used it to get seedlings going, they would then plant elsewhere in the garden. But if it's the only thing you've got, you can grow a variety of things in here, predominantly lettuces. You could grow some root vegetables as well. Of course you are limited by the height of the glass here, and so things like brassicas would be out of the question. Now I've made this from scrap timber last year and used this old window frame, but if you can't get an old glass window frame, or for safety reasons you don't want to use that, you could use polycarbonate plastic instead, which works perfectly well. In fact you could use polycarbonate for the whole thing for something a bit more flimsy. This is obviously built to last a few more years, but yeah, a cold frame. Great idea if you have the space for it, or if it's the only space that you've got and want to grow things earlier in the year or later in the year when it starts to get a bit more cold. The next growing area I want to look at are raised beds. Now here we've built 2 raised beds to terrace an area. It was actually an old compost area. And we built this last year using reclaimed timber, and it's not really part of a permanent feature here, but it's something we did last year when we first arrived. It looks a little bit messy at the moment. It's actually been covered with a blanket of leaves over the winter period to protect the soil. And then of course those leaves break down and then become part of the organic matter and the nutrition that will feed whatever we decide to grow in here. When you're building your raised beds, remember to use timber that's not been treated in any way, because the treatment can release chemicals into the soil which then become part of the food that you ingest. Raised beds are, if you're someone who likes a neat and sort of tidy garden, they feature quite a lot at the moment because it's part of sort of contemporary design with nice straight lines, and it keeps everything a little bit tidy without spilling over. So this could be an option for you if that's the sort of thing that you like. So these are raised beds. Let's go and look at the next area. This is our no-dig garden. Now, the principles of no-dig are just as it says in the title, we don't dig. And the point of that is that we don't disturb the soil. So everything here is built on top of the soil. This whole area actually was an old vegetable field which used to be ploughed many years ago. These two beds here are built with a leaf mould compost which we've extracted from an old animal barn, and this bed here and the three behind me are built from organic material combined. There's some grass cuttings from around here, there is some hay, there are some nettle stems and some other bits and pieces. They've sort of been here for over a year now, so they're decomposing well, and we will be planting potatoes into these beds. This bed here, or these two beds, have had garlic in. We planted that in autumn, and that's come up in the spring, and we put this hay on top of the compost to provide a sort of a winter quilt. But as you can see, the garlic has burst through that, and in the next couple of weeks we'll be removing this hay and distributing it on the other beds. And then, like I said, in those beds we'll be planting potatoes. That's called the Ruth Stout method. It sounds almost too good to be true, but you can simply put potatoes into hay and they will grow. I have covered that in another video, and I will be talking in greater depth about the principles of no-dig further on in this series. So yeah, this is our no-dig garden. Let's go and have a look at the market garden that I've been working on. So this is our market garden. The basic principle is that we've got 7 beds. They're all equally distanced. We have, the bed size is 10 metres by 75 centimetres or 30 inch wide, which is a fairly standard bed spacing for market gardens. And in between the walkways we have 30 centimetre walkways, again covered in wood chips to suppress weeds, and this makes the beds very accessible, and you can manage the beds easily. Now we've planned for 3 rows of 7 beds, and we have a plan for those beds, and then at the end we hope to maybe get a few smaller beds across vertically as well. And this is obviously part of a larger self-sustainable plan, so that we can grow lots of our own food. Not something that I would expect a first timer to dip into, but it does show you some of a way that you can grow lots of food if you've got the space. And it's certainly a method which is very easily scalable, so you can start small and you can make it big. In principle there's no reason why you can't have 1 bed like this and then manage that, much like the smaller vegetable patch. These are, again, will be no dig. This has traditionally been a ploughed field. That ploughing ended last year, and we built this over the very mild winter that we've had here. And it's earth with compost on the top, and then we'll be building that over the years, just amending it with more compost as we go on. There'll be no deep digging The soil is already very loose anyway from the previous year's ploughing. But yeah, this is really what the very early stages of a market garden looks like. Very bare at the moment, clearly. We're just about coming up to the time where we can start to plant things. We're expecting a last sort of belt of cold weather in the next week or so. Very nice today, but might be cold again next week, and then we can get planting. And over the next 2 or 3 months, you'll see this market garden come to life. So this is the sort of biggest principle of the areas that you can grow in, and that sort of concludes this video. And I hope that you can see how one or maybe a multiple of the examples that I've given you in this video you could utilise to begin your growing. In the next video, we're going to look at the sort of 5 or 6 must-have things that you should be growing, and they're very easy as well. And I will be introducing you to those and the sort of nutrition values of those foods as well. So that will be next week's episode. Thank you for joining me on this video. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Please share this video and get excited about what I'm doing. Once again, like I said in the last video, I want to encourage you. That's the principle of these videos, is to encourage you and to inspire you to grow your own food. So thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.